The Hacker News Network presents HNNCast with your host, Space Rogue.
HNNCast is sponsored by Astaro, simplifying security, and by TrustWave's Spider Labs, providing advanced information security services to planet Earth. Become a sponsor. Email sales@hackernews.com.
This is Space Rogue for the Hacker News Network, and this is HNNCast for the first week of January 2011. Happy New Year! By the time you watch this, HNN will officially be 1 year old. We really couldn't do it without our sponsors, Astaro, Spider Labs, and Sector. Additionally, we have a couple of more sponsors joining them this year, and there's always room for a few more. If you're interested, let us know. And now for the news. HNN took the holidays off, but the news didn't, and there's a lot of it. First, let's catch you up on some of last year's stories. You might remember the DDoS attacks launched by the group Anonymous against various entities who acted against WikiLeaks, including credit card processors MasterCard, Visa, American Express, and even PayPal. Well, the FBI remembers and has launched an investigation to find out who may have participated in the attacks. They raided at least 2 ISPs, TaylorMade Services, a Dallas-based hosting provider, and Hurricane Electric, based in San Jose. Investigations have also been started in Germany, France, and Canada. But the law enforcement raids and international investigations haven't slowed down Anonymous too much, who continue to launch additional attacks, including one against Bank of America, one against Zimbabwe, and another against Tunisia for blocking access to WikiLeaks. Not everyone is happy with Anonymous, as someone directed a DDoS attack against 4chan, the primary discussion forum for Anonymous that took the site offline for a few hours. There was at least one prominent breach over the Christmas break. The Happy Ninjas issued the second release of Owned and Exposed over the Christmas break. And this time it hit the exploit database, Carters.cc, Backtrack Linux, Ettercap, and even a few others. The group suggested that Ettercap may have been compromised for the last 5 years and recommended that anyone using SourceForge should probably find a new host. The ASCII-based text file includes code snippets from the affected sites, password hashes, email spools, and other juicy info. Definitely a little embarrassing for everyone involved. Well, except the Happy Ninjas. Hoo-yah! Google and Microsoft seem to have their own little fight club going on over the topic of vulnerability disclosure.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can. What? I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
I thought this topic was settled back in 1999, but I guess not. A security researcher at Google, Michael Zawiski, created a new tool, CrossFuzz, which is a cross-document DOM binding fuzzer that is able to detect vulnerabilities in all browsers by examining how they interact with various elements while they render web pages. His fuzzer found a serious bug in IE back in July. Zawiski talked to Microsoft, but they said they couldn't duplicate the problem. By December, Zawiski wanted to publish his research, but Microsoft urged him not to do so. Of course, Zawiski wasn't the only one to find the bug. Come to find out, some folks in China were able to duplicate Zawiski's work and were actively exploiting the hole. So on New Year's Day, Zawiski released his findings. This, of course, upset Microsoft, who claimed that Zawiski amplified the existing risk. This isn't the first time that Google and Microsoft have butted heads over vulnerability disclosure. This is the third time, as far as I know, with previous bugs getting released by researchers Travis Ormandy and Chris Evans. In this case, and in Evans, Microsoft had months to fix the problem, but chose not to. Ormandy only gave them 5 days, but that was a pretty serious hole. Honestly, I'm getting tired of this whole debate over responsible disclosure, or whatever you want to call it. We need to find a solution that everyone can agree with, or otherwise we're just going to be pissing in the wind over and over. Back before Christmas, we told you about a third-party email services provider called Silverpoop that had itself been popped. McDonald's, Walgreens, and DeviantArt all used the service and all had their email address databases compromised. Right after Christmas, we learned of another potential company that may have been victimized in the same breach, Honda. While the American Honda Motor Company hasn't identified who they used to manage their email services, the size and timing of the breach would indicate that it was the same company. Honda says that it notified 2.2 million users of the compromise of their usernames and vehicle ID numbers. Excellent phishing info. Like we said before, you can outsource your email, you can even outsource your security, but you can't outsource your risk. The Department of Homeland Security's Immigration and Customs Enforcement have arrested 2 Vietnamese exchange students who were attending Minnesota's Winona State University. They are suspected of being mules for an online scam that used stolen credit card information and bogus PayPal accounts to sell products on eBay. The pair were part of a larger ring that would use stolen identities and stolen credit cards to sell high-end merchandise via eBay. The group evidently had control over 180 eBay accounts and more than 360 PayPal accounts. They were all opened using stolen identities. The pair collected over $1 million in fraudulent charges and are thought to be part of a larger fraud ring based in Vietnam. We'll be back with more HNNCast right after these messages.
Hi, this is Mudge from the Loft. When I'm not busy taking down the internet in 30 minutes, I'm watching Hacker News Network.
Bye, 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 bye.
Welcome back to HNNCast. It's been known for some time that most home router companies hard-code their SSL keys into the unit's firmware. Normally, this wouldn't be a big deal, as you would need to know what brand and model of router and what firmware version your target was using to be able to compromise their traffic. That is, until the people behind the Little Black Box project started collecting private SSL keys. They have over 2,000 hard-coded keys in their database. Now all you have to do is supply the hard-coded public key, and they can cough up the hard-coded private key. This enables you to compromise a home-based router and start to do all sorts of evil things with the network on the other side. Better not forget your endpoint security. Over the holiday break, Facebook came out with a new vulnerability disclosure policy. The Facebook policy does not offer cash for finding flaws like Mozilla and Google do. No, the Facebook policy basically says that if you find a hole in their website and report it to them nicely, then they won't call the cops on you. Wow, thanks Facebook. What they don't say is exactly what nicely means to them or how long you have to wait for them to fix something. Of course, it is implied that if you don't play by their rules, they will call the cops and lawyers on you. Yeah, it really makes me want to report vulnerabilities to Facebook. What really upsets me about this whole mess is that the EFF evidently helped them draft the policy. Wow, Granick leaves and the whole place goes to poop. Romanian authorities have made numerous raids to dismantle a fraud network responsible for breaking into voice-over IP servers belonging to companies from around the world, who then made fraudulent phone calls to premium rate numbers. According to Romanian officials, the crime ring has been operating since 2009. The group would scan for voice-over IP servers over the internet and then attempt to break into them using various methods. In the last 10 months, the gang numbered over 50 people, made over 1.5 million phone calls, and caused over 11 million euro in losses. This next story is just weird and sounds like it came straight out of the movie Swordfish or maybe the TV show 24. Just need Kiefer Sutherland or Halle Berry to make an appearance. It's hard to make out exactly what happened. All we have here is a poor Google Translate article, but evidently when the authorities in Western Siberia released a guy from jail after serving his sentence for other crimes, the guy went and looked up an old buddy of his who he remembered was a computer programmer. The suspect, along with 2 friends, kidnapped the programmer and then chained him to a radiator. They wanted him to break into bank websites. When the programmer refused, they beat him and then made ransom demands to his friends. The programmer was eventually able to escape, but damn, that sounds a lot like a Hollywood movie without the pretty girls or the token Arab terrorist.
Does everybody know what time it is? Tool time! That's right, Bimfer Tools is proud to present
Space Rogue.
That's right, it's tool time again. First, it should be noted that we regularly point to tools that are hosted on SourceForge or other repositories. Well, keep in mind that even if you trust the tool author, distributions are another matter. Remember to verify your downloads against any provided signatures, utilize antivirus software, and do your part for the community and yourself by reviewing as much of the code as you run as you can. Develop a baseline of your normal system behaviors and periodically audit against that baseline, or better yet, on an ongoing basis. Some tools to help you in these efforts include MD5 Sums. an MD5-based file hasher. Use this to generate a fingerprint you can then compare to the signature provided with the distribution. Note, of course, that any attacker who can change the file you download can also change the signature file as well. So this is something the author and distributor should be checking regularly against a write-protected baseline. Of course, it's worth noting that MD5 was defeated a year or two back now, so this whole process and toolset should be migrated to SHA soon. Tripwire is something you may have heard about from your father. I remember it, but then I'm old. For some reason, antivirus really took off, but system integrity never really caught on that well. Tripwire has survived though, and the Enterprise Edition lets you manage distributed systems file integrity centrally. Blockwatch is an emergent technology from security objectives. It can blacklist or whitelist files to provide antivirus, digital loss protection, and system integrity, making matches not only against entire files, but through percentage matches to known black or whitelisted files. Learn more at security-objectives.com. Tripwire and Blockwatch are both commercial, but Microsoft Security Essentials is free. Keep that in mind every time you click OK at that expired AV warning. Now on to a few updates for you. Whisper Systems TechSecure, WJ32's Process Hacker, Sci-Hunt's SendCat Pro, and Waraweda's Brooder for Windows have all been updated. Please note that Process Hacker and Brooder are hosted at SourceForge. Also, the Metaterpreter now has a Windows 8 UAC bypass. It is a bit different from running your traditional script. Instead of interacting with Metaterpreter and executing the commands from the Metaterpreter shell, you need to use the new UsePost modules. Details on how to use it are on Rayclick's blog at secmaniac.com. MagicTree is a penetration tester productivity tool. It is designed to allow easy and straightforward data consolidation, querying, and external command execution. Tree is because all the data is stored in a tree structure, and Magic is because it is designed to magically do the most cumbersome and boring part of penetration testing, data management and reporting. Get the jar from Grumwell today. Agnitio by David Rook is a tool to help you conduct manual security code reviews in a consistent and repeatable way. Agnitio aims to replace the ad hoc nature of manual security code review documentation, create an audit trail, and reporting. It's distributed via SourceForge, so get it, but not until SourceForge gets their together. And finally, the folks at Mega Panzer are teasing us this week. We will hopefully be telling you about Ay Caramba sometime soon. That's it for this week's Tool Time. Join us next week for our salute to Tool Time. We'll be back with more HNNCast right after these messages. And now for a few quick stories we found on the net this week. Actually, quite a few quick stories, as we haven't aired an HNNcast in 3 weeks now. But first, some celebrity news. The FBI has finally arrested Trainwreck, aka Joshua Hawley, for financial fraud. Trainwreck was raided 2 years ago after he became a suspect in breaching Miley Cyrus's email account. After the raid, the FBI found stolen credit card numbers on Trainwreck's hard drive, leading to the arrest. No idea why it took 2 years to make the arrest, though. Kelly Osbourne is now the latest celebrity to have their email account broken into. Kelly says she is devastated. Looks like whoever did it forwarded all her emails to a different account. Probably not the smartest move. Law enforcement is evidently investigating. Did you get a new HD TV for Christmas? One that connects directly to the internet for quick movie downloads? Well, first, go check out HNN on blip.tv. HNNcast looks pissa on the big screen, yo. Anyway, new research indicates that many of these new devices are wide open to attack, especially via JavaScript, which was implemented without sanitizing inputs. And around we go. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Apple just opened their brand spanking new Mac App Store. It took about 6 hours or so before someone figured out how to pirate applications out of it. Download a free app, say the Twitter app, open up the package file contents, and then, get this, copy and paste a few lines from one app to the other. Voila, pirated app. Come on, Apple, really? Does your car have one of those fancy immobilizers that prevent the car from starting if the correct key fob isn't present within the vehicle? Well, you better not depend on it to keep your car from being stolen. It turns out that key fobs found in many cards use encryption keys that are way too short, such as 48-bit DES, and is easily cracked by bad guys. In some cases, it was found the key was actually the VIN number of the vehicle. Doesn't get much more stupider than that. How long before we see a TV Be Gone style device for cars? If you're a SAP customer, then you already know this, but they just recently released over 500 security notes. This symphony of notes addresses various vulnerabilities in the company's software. Details of the vulnerabilities and the patches have not been made public, presumably because they have no confidence in their understanding of the issues. Sorry, SAP, but the bad guys probably already know your holes better than you do. Japan is going to try to outlaw computer viruses, because, that way only outlaws will have viruses. The Japanese Justice Ministry is planning to submit a bill to revise the penal code that will outlaw computer viruses. Hey, Japan, I'm sure all the viruses will stop right at the border for you. So, yeah, good luck with that. Hundreds of names and addresses linked to the English Defence League, a controversial anti-Islamic group based in the UK, have been circulated on the web after the organization's website was compromised. A group known as the Mujahideen Hacking Unit claimed responsibility for the breach. The English Defence League has warned its members to watch out for possible physical revenge attacks. Hey, if you want to hate, be ready for some hate in return. An SQL injection attack on the website for City Sites New York, a local tour operator owned by Twin America, has resulted in the loss of over 100,000 credit card numbers. Almost 2,000 of those numbers belong to Massachusetts residents, which could result in the first test of that state's new tough data privacy law. A student at Stony Brook University in New York found a way to access the personal information of over 60,000 registered students and faculty. Of course, no one believed him, so he posted the list online. The school fixed the hole about 6 hours later. We told you about this back in May when it happened, but Barry Ardoff of Blaine, Minnesota has now had his day in court. He has pleaded guilty to breaking into his neighbor's Wi-Fi and then posing as his neighbor to make threats to kill the Vice President of the United States. Although it took Barry 2 whole days of trial before he changed his plea to guilty, which is probably the first smart thing he has done since he thought up this harebrained scheme. Lots of movement in the security industry over the last few weeks. BAE bought Danish cybersecurity firm ETI for $212 million. Dell bought Secunia, and SourceFire bought Immunet. Someone's getting rich out there. Okay, here's a weird one. John Wheeler, a U.S. military expert who helped create the Air Force's Cyber Force, was found dead last week. That's not really the weird part. The weird part is he was found dead in a Cherry Island, New Jersey landfill. Like I said, weird. And that's all the quick stories we found on the net the last 3 weeks. That means it's time for your ConFu. 27th Chaos Communications Congress, or 27C3, happened in Germany over the holidays, and most of the talks have already been posted online. We have a link at hackernews.com in the comments section for this episode. Also keep your eye out for an upcoming episode of Behind the Firewall for exclusive footage of the sights and sounds of the Congress from our on-the-spot reporter, Bicycle Mark. If you haven't been paying attention, the B-Sides phenomenon is really blowing up. B-Sides Berlin just closed down, and by all accounts, it was an amazing success. Upcoming events in the next few months include security B-Sides happening in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Cleveland, Halifax, Austin, Chicago, Greensboro, North Carolina, and even Rochester, New York. Hey, security is everywhere. And don't forget San Francisco in February. And of course, Vegas later this summer. All of the events are looking for speakers, volunteers, participants, and of course, sponsors. Check out the B-Sides Wiki for more. You can find the link at hackernews.com. Source Boston, scheduled for April 20th this year, has announced their keynote speaker as none other than Peter Mudge Zatko himself. And they just launched their cool new website. Check it out. The Off Again, On Again Con, Excaliber Con, is back on. Now set for April 1st. No, really, April 1st. No fooling. In Beijing, China. The call for papers is open, so get cracking. The last round of Shmoocon tickets went on sale on January 1st and sold out in about 5 seconds or so. It's coming up quick at the end of January, and HNN should be there. Watch for us. I don't think there is any snow in the forecast this year. Oh, speaking of Shmoocon, the call for papers for the Shmoocon Fire Talks is now open. They're also looking for sponsors. The call for papers is now open for RootedCon, taking place in Spain at the beginning of March. Sector has announced their dates for 2011, October 18th and 19th, with training on the 17th. Be sure to mark those calendars. The deadline for speaker submissions to CarolinaCon is coming up fast. Get your papers submitted by March 1st. CarolinaCon happens at the end of April in Raleigh, North Carolina. DerbyCon in Louisville, Kentucky has launched its new website. DerbyCon is scheduled for end of September 2011. The speaker list already looks pretty impressive and includes H.D. Moore, Chris Nickerson, and even Kevin Mitnick. Might be worth checking out. On February 4th, ZDI will finally drop all the vulnerabilities it has that are at least 6 months old. That's less than a month away. As of right now, there are 52 vulnerabilities that could be dropped. Of those, all but 19 have been promised to be fixed by the vendor. So we're either going to see a lot of patches come out in the next few weeks, or a whole lot of holes get the limelight. So here's the list of all known open vulnerabilities as cataloged by the Zero Day Initiative.
Welcome to the real world.
That's it for this week's HNNcast. I've been your host, Space Rogue, and you've been watching Hacker News Network. Remember, if you have any news you think we should report, send it to news@hackernews.com. You have been watching HNNcast. This is Space Rogue for the Hacker News Network.
Fun to do bad things.